Sometimes I don't want to turn down the music and start talking. It sounds so good.
Yeah.
But the music is going down, and we're telling you that you're welcome to WNHH Radio's Dateline New Haven. I'm your host, Paul Bass, inviting you to look behind the headlines on the stories that make New Haven tick. Mayor Toni Hart makes New Haven tick morning and night. She's here in the WNHH studio for her weekly Mayor Monday checkup on what she and we are up to in the Elm City. Welcome, Mayor Harp.
Well, it's great to be here, Paul. How you doing?
We could just put the music back up for the next hour.
I know we can jam.
If you have a question for the mayor, feel free to pop it to us via Facebook Live. That's the New Haven Independent Facebook page. The video's there. If you're not there already, we will get the question, unless you're Bob, in which case you're welcome to call us. And thanks to Gateway Community College and Bertram Moses PC for providing financial support for today's program. Mayor Harp, I saw you in the crowd last night, 800 people at the Jewish Community Center. Interfaith vigil.
Yes.
For New Haven to stand together in the face of the latest terrorist attack in New Haven, in America, in the Squirrel Hill neighborhood of Pittsburgh, one of the great Jewish communities in our country. A man who hates Jews walked into a synagogue during services on Shabbat morning Saturday, killed 11 people. What did you think of that event last night?
Well, I thought that there were people from all over the region there. There were people of, as you pointed out, all denominations and many, many cultures all coming together to grieve what is, in fact, too often what we see happen in our country. Maybe it doesn't happen every day, but at least happens, a couple of times a year, that some group is singled out by some person with a gun, and they go in and they do significant physical damage, killing people, but also the emotional damage that is done to our entire country, not to mention their families, their extended communities. And, we deal with this far too often, and but in coming together, I think that it gives us a sense that these are real outliers, but things that we really want to figure out. How do we stop this?
Is it a outlier? That's what we always wrestle with, because when an event like this happens, for those of us who are Jewish, you wonder, is life going to be different now? Because we all were sitting in shul on Saturday morning, and different parts of the country, and the guy happened to go to Squirrel Hill, not New Haven. So does that mean we have to be different in New Haven? But then you say, okay, these events sometimes happen, and then life goes back to normal. 1999, someone shot up a JCC in Los Angeles. But since then, nobody has walked into a Jewish house, a Jewish institution, and shot up the place. So we feel like that's once in a while. But then, as you heard last night, Mayor Harp, 1 year since Donald Trump became president, 57% increase in anti-Semitic incidents in America last night, and a larger sense of hate that Jews are by no means the only target, not even always the prime target. They were Saturday. I would argue they were in Charlottesville, despite how that was displayed. But African Americans are the target every day almost in this country.
Exactly.
That hate and violence, and it's not true for Jews. Have we just, last week was the pipe bomb incidents. What's going on in our country?
Well, I think we have a leader who is inciting people to misbehave. Long story short, he likes to keep this going. This whole
chaos works for him.
It works for him. But the alt-right, the white supremacists, these are all people that are fringe groups. He's brought them together to give them a greater voice of hatred. And then you have people who then would probably never do that if that voice wasn't so loud, who go out and then take, this negative and destructive action on communities. And
you saw the fine line last night, Mayor Harp. You noticed that politicians, elected officials were not invited to speak, but they were there in support, which meant a lot to us.
Mm-hmm.
Meant a lot to me that you were there, actually. And people were told not to be political. So there was one group, there's one sect of Jews are very liberal politically for the most part, overwhelmingly vote for Obama, for Hillary, but there's a hardcore on the right including one set called Abovich, who had many more speakers than everybody else last night, and was the one group that didn't mention universal solidarity. They just talked about Jewish solidarity. They didn't mention guns. They are pretty pro-Trump, pro-guns. But the vast majority of people in that hall, overwhelming majority, overwhelming speakers, are partisan. Second biggest applause line after Stephen Cousins' line about how we're all together, the Reverend from Bethel, was Rona Shapiro, the rabbi who said we have to act against guns. We have to vote on November 6th, with the undercurrent being how to vote. But on the other hand, I happen to agree with you personally that Donald Trump might be the number one offender for spreading this hate at a high level in this country and encouraging white supremacist groups to come out of the woodwork. But it's a deeper disease, I think, on all sides that help elect Donald Trump, that he's made worse, and a hatred in our community at every level, mayors, governors, president. I was saying to a friend of mine this morning that I think that whoever gets elected anymore in America is just going to be the target of hate no matter what they do until they're out of office. And so there was a decision made last night not to talk about that. In fact, the one person went further than they were told to go. There were Republicans, and I was glad they were, and it mattered to me. There were Republican legislators in that hall who I think are wonderful people and would never condone that kind of hate. It's interesting how you draw that line, because then there are many of us, including the vast majority in that hall, who feel passionately that these November 6th elections are the time to take that stand against hate by voting a certain way.
I think that it's the public discourse, to be honest with you, and I would say yes, that there has to be some action that you take that represents your point of view, and certainly the most direct action would be voting for people who have the same values that you have, and I think that the way that I see it is that like all of this hate was probably always there, but it was kept under wraps. I think of it as Pandora's box. It was kept under wraps because it didn't represent the value of this country. But then when you have a president who openly allows it to be open and to fester and seems to revel in it.
He redistributes articles from far right hate groups on Twitter.
Yeah, and so it's beginning to he's through his action, he is saying that this is a possible value of this country.
Have the Republicans stood up to him?
No, of course they haven't, because they are so power hungry around some of the other things that they want that they try to downplay this. But it absolutely is destroying our country.
I have to say that a Jewish person, it felt great last night to be around so many fellow Jews in that hall and so many other people in our community who came out to show support. I love the way that you were standing off the side with a whole bunch of people. I always love the way you never call attention to yourself. You never, as a public official, try to make anything about you or take the spotlight. You were there being supported. I was just proud that my mayor was there. Oh. And thanks for being there.
Well, I was happy.
You didn't give a speech. You didn't glad hand.
And I was inspired by what occurred. And I think that
I was too.
Yeah.
That was a big turnout. There were hundreds into the hallways.
Oh, I know. It was and traffic jams.
Yeah.
In Woodbridge. But and I think that in many respects, coming together and with the vigil espousing our values as a people gave us all strength.
I agree. And, that happened after the shootings in Charleston, South Carolina, in the Black Church, which Reverend Cohen talked about last night. He talked about how some Jews showed up for that, and he was during the favor. A lot of us who observe Jewish laws were the last to find out about this massacre because we don't use electronics on the Sabbath. So in my case, I was at this Shabbos study group, which is in the afternoon right before Sabbath ends at sundown. And someone came in who had heard about it. And all of a sudden, people just started extemporaneously saying what they thought, feeling scared things won't be the same. One person said, now we know how it's like to be black in America. And I was thinking, we don't really know because we don't get followed with suspicion everywhere we go. We haven't had Jewish people killed by either law enforcement or citizens for absolutely no reason, but just because they were scared of who we are, what we look like, and then have the criminal justice system let them off. We haven't, even though the president has retweeted anti-Semitic tweets, I actually think he's not against Jews the way he is clearly against African Americans and gay people, etc. And yet it did give us a moment of insight that just like people in Charleston, South Carolina, who were at a prayer group died because a man came in who wanted to just kill as many black people as he could. There were Jews in that synagogue who died because a man came in and said he wanted to kill as many Jews as he could. So, and those are some of the thoughts that people had.
Well, and I think that what it says to me is that until we treat ourselves as one humanity, until we understand that everyone has value, who wants to live within a code of everyone having value, that that we're going to continue to struggle. And and I know that it's a tough thing to do. If you think about America, what America does is challenge this whole idea of tribe, to say that tribes often came together and kept each other safe. And we are basically saying, but the tribe in America isn't what we would typically think of as a tribe, but it's all of us that have the same value. And that's a hard evolutionary step.
Yeah, interesting. All right, you're listening to Mayor Monday on 103.5 FM, live streamed at NewHavenIndependent.org. And I just want to thank everybody who came out to that vigil last night. I want to thank everyone who personally has stopped me everywhere I've gone in New Haven, who's not Jewish, who just expressed their condolences and feelings of support. I am very proud and happy to live in New Haven, Connecticut. Bob McCormick, you are on with Mayor Harp. How you doing, sir? Bob, we're losing you, man. Harry, you know what happened to Bob? Okay, Bob. Bob, it shows you being on that you waited 4 minutes. All right, we're gonna get back to you in a little while, Bob. Okay, Mayor Harp. Aaron Good has not sent in a question yet. Or you want to check, Harry, with the Bob? Are you still okay? So maybe Bob will call back. So Aaron Good has not sent in any teaser questions yet, that pop quizzes that we have to be careful. So I'm going to give you one. Ready?
Oh no!
I'm sorry. You got it. That's the price to come in here. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. What are silicon carbide fibers and silicon nitride fibers? And why am I asking you this?
Well, you're asking me it. It's a new fiber that is extraordinarily heat resistant, more heat resistant than copper.
So you already know more about this than I do. I had to look it up and write it down carefully. Okay.
And there is a company out of Changsha.
Oh, I've heard of Changsha. That's our new sister city in
That's
China.
right.
Right,
Yeah. And so when we were in Changsha, we met with a number of companies there, and then we met with some companies in Shenzhen to determine if there were companies that wanted to have a presence in the United States on the Eastern Coast. And this particular company wanted to have a presence on the Eastern Coast, but they also with a strong engineering university, and they also wanted to be close to the sort of aeronautics manufacturing. And so they have been in contact with us because of the difficulty that is going on between the United States and China. It was difficult for them to get a visa to come here. Yeah.
So just let people know what happened. You went to China. You were looking for business. You met some people who might want to open businesses here. They made a return trip this past Friday from Changsha, a company that makes these silicon carbide fibers that are used in airplanes and in electronics, soon to be a kind of cell phone and other electronic devices. They're going to be big. Right. And they want to open up a manufacturing and research and development facility, correct? Somewhere around here.
Right.
And we made a pitch to them. You rolled out the red carpet, got everyone together to try to get them to move from Changsha. Why don't we put it on hold just to see if we got Bob back?
Okay, sounds good.
Bob, are you there? Huh. He's holding. Harry, we still don't got Bob. I see Bob holding. He called back. Oh, I don't have Bob. You got Bob? Mayor Harp, do you hear Bob?
I don't hear Bob. Bob, are you there?
Must be the reason we were hearing double when we were starting the show. All right. Well, we'll figure that out later. I'll keep talking about Changsha. Bob, are you on? No? All right. That's Harry Joyce, our station manager, helping us here on Mayor Monday, where the highest technology from silicon nitride fibers to phone calls on radio shows, that new threshold on communications technology. So you went to Changsha. You said we want some businesses to come to New Haven. They came to New Haven last Thursday. Thursday. And I didn't realize they had trouble with the visa because of the trade war that's brewing.
Right.
But they made it.
They made it.
And you had not just a breakfast with city leaders pitching them on New Haven from the private sector, academic, government, but you took them places. They went shopping.
They went and they looked at some possible places to locate their business, and they really liked a lot of the spaces they saw in New Haven.
District, I heard, was their favorite.
District was their favorite.
Can you still get into District? That's the new place in Fairhaven on James Street, what used to be Connecticut Bus Depot.
I think so, yes. I think you can still get in, and I think that they can get in.
What a great choice for that.
It would be great. And they were really very excited. They didn't know about University of New Haven, and they only knew about Yale, of course, in China.
Well, don't they know about Albertus? Because Mark Camille, the president, went with you to Changsha to pitch them on exchanges.
Well, actually, it was city staff that did the pitching, so he didn't get to do that. But one of the things that he did want to do, we met with one of the very large universities there, and I think that he'd love to have some exchange students that come in.
Excellent. So they didn't know about UNH. So the Changsha visitors from Hunan Boom New Met Materials had breakfast at the study.
Right.
Saw all sorts of places in town where they might locate 300 George districts, some places I'd ever heard of, some out by the harbor. In the end, what did they tell you?
Well, we were with their chief technology
officer, who's a woman.
A woman.
I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, Dr. Yang. And she brought her little boy. I thought it was
the 7-year-old boy was the hit of the day. Yeah.
And what they're going to do, they were keeping in close contact with their CEO, and so the next step will be the CEO coming.
Oh, and he's going to come.
That they want him to come. They really liked it here.
Excellent. And any other businesses from Changsha thinking about us?
We're hoping that we'll get maybe one or two others, and so they said they were coming. We'll see.
Hunan Boom says they want 50 to 100 employees, and it was a range, correct? Engineers, manufacturing, that kind of stuff.
Right. It's really very exciting. It's exciting for New Haven, but for our entire region, maybe even our state.
You got a hard time for going to China.
I did.
This is why you went to China.
Yes, it was one of the reasons.
So what did people say after they found out you had this visit?
They haven't heard. I'm sure they're trying to figure out a reason why it didn't.
We were on guard to see if the commenters, the Independent, were going to give you a hard time, and they couldn't think of anything to criticize about this aspect of it. But I believe, and not that you don't make mistakes, obviously.
Yeah.
If you're going to be criticized, you're a big girl, you're mayor of the city.
Of course.
But I do believe that if you saved the kid from drowning, you would be highly criticized for it in My Fair publication. Just saying, okay? Just throwing that out there. Hey, we got some listeners. Natalie Moore says hello.
Hi.
Davis Jabbar Burnell says this is not what we're interested in. He's not interested in jobs coming to New Haven. Is there going to be an audit? I guess that was about Len Fasano said he wants a forensic audit of our spending.
We have an audit every single year. And so, when we close the books with an audit.
Is that August, September type thing?
Yeah, normally.
And who
September.
does the audit?
We have an outside company that does it. I don't know the name of the company.
Our nonprofit does an audit. We have to under the law. If you have over 250,000, they kick your butt, and I really like it.
Yeah,
because they find out all the things, and it makes me a little more humble when I criticize, the people I write about for not keeping the right paperwork. I found out, you sometimes lose that you forget to save that receipt from the coffee shop when you're meeting someone to talk business for $7, and then the audit comes, and where was it? Or you're not moving money around to the right accounts to make interest. And I find it very useful. We have an auditor who really does a good grilling of us every year about how we could manage our system better.
And we do too. And I think you're right that it absolutely helps you improve the way in which you handle money and also your accounting processes. And so it's not that we look forward to it every year, but we know that we will benefit from it.
And you said publicly you felt there do need to be improvements based on what you found out about credit cards, which is going to be a hearing tonight, right? Board of Alders, what's going to happen tonight?
Well, I don't know. It's their show.
But you guys must be ready. You must have an approach, ready things to say.
Oh, yeah, no. I think we do. Look, we it wasn't the credit cards that were not how can I put it, that we didn't provide information for. It was the trips. It was the
Receipts.
no, it wasn't receipts. It was there's a form that we didn't know to fill out on when we leave town, and so we know that now, and we will be doing that.
What kind of form is that?
It's a form that we give to the finance director that indicates where we're going, why we're going there, who went, and I believe at some point the cost of it.
And you going to bring that form tonight so everyone can see what it looks like?
I'm sure that they'll show that form
could
for
waive it.
travel.
Yeah.
The real issue that I think that and it's important for people to know this too, that we had someone who stole money from our using the credit card, but because we pressed charges, we got 100% of all of that money back, so that the city is not out of anything.
Okay. But we never make mistakes here in how we run the operation. We're going to try for the third time to see if Bob is there. Bob, are you there? He's on the active. He's been waiting another 3 minutes. Bob, I'm really sorry that the tech didn't work, but there will be a hearing at the Board of Alders about how we're going to improve that, and we're going to have all sorts of answers ready. So I wanted to ask how the prom was.
The prom.
Yeah, you went to the prom Thursday night. Oh, you know what? That's not the prom. That's the Black and Hispanic Caucus. But boy, do people get dressed up for that thing like the prom.
Oh, they do.
I was
They're
looking at the
much-
pictures. I wouldn't come within a mile of that. I could not show my face. It's the way people dress that
Well,
well.
I felt bad because I didn't have time to change clothes either. So
Yeah, but
can
you dress
come.
well every day. But some of them, I mean, did you see some of the Board of Alders leaders, what they look like at
Oh,
that
my
thing? Man, I
goodness,
thought it was the
yeah.
Academy Awards or something. Forget the prom. But it's a very nice event when no
It
one
is a
fights
nice
for a
event.
night.
Mhm.
Everyone goes to Anthony's Ocean View, and they raise a lot of money for charity.
They do.
And they just kind of feel good about, and they recognize people they think are heroic in the community. Like, it was kind of funny. Ironic. Greg Baldwin and Meredith Gavin, who run and started the New Haven Academy, who were almost split up by the Board of Ed this year. They were honored last Thursday night, along with Al Palillo, who's an Alder, became
Yeah.
a state rep. Tell me about what that event was like.
It's always a lot of fun. The music is wonderful, and they make sure at the very end that we can do the electric slide and the wobble,
Oh.
all those things. So it's a lot of fun. Line dancing.
And you actually did the electric slide.
I did a wobble.
What's the wobble?
Well,
I mean,
it's
I can
kind
guess.
it's kind of like the electric slide. You just wobble a little bit with it. Yeah.
And okay, so tell me about we're a week and a day from this crazy midterm election. All elections feel that way, and they always feel like the biggest. Rosa DeLauro has been saying every election we tell you this one's the one that really counts, but this is the one that really counts. And it seems like all politics is not local this year. At least that's what the experts who were so right about the 2016 election are saying. They're saying that all these races are about Donald Trump, and that in Connecticut, the governor's race, which is believed to be a toss-up, is about Donald Trump and Dan Malloy. Who do people hate more, or who can't people to come? What's your take on how it's shaking out?
Well, I do that for those people who, like myself, I probably watch a little bit too much CNN and MSNBC, but
My condolences.
And,
Yeah, I don't watch any of it.
I am worried about our country.
Me too.
And I think that most people who think about it are worried about it as well. One of the things that, I've been in the legislative branch most of my public career. And one of the really great things about the legislative branch is that there is a balance of powers. And it usually works to sort of make government sane.
Mhm.
And what I see happening in Washington is that there isn't a balance of powers. That that the Republican Congress and Senate are so power hungry that they are willing to give up on the values of this country just to please someone who is just as far as I'm concerned, he's so far away from, so eccentric, so far away from the center of and core of what our country means to us as individuals. And so, we've always thought that the balance of powers is what provides us some safety. We don't have that now.
So now, when that plays into congressional Senate races, it's dangerous to say this as a reporter since we're wrong all the time. it doesn't seem like the Senate and House races in Connecticut are that competitive. It seems like the Republicans aren't even really trying to win those races, especially the House races. But governor, it's a fight to the finish, and a lot of issues that people in New Haven care about and in similar communities in the country are now going to come down to the states. States are now going to take the lead on climate change.
Right.
States are going to try to protect health care for poor people
Right.
and middle class people. States are going to try to try to protect rights of transgender and gay people and try to preserve gay rights, right to abortion. Even that could even come into play. What do you see going on in that race? How do you read it, and why is it so close?
Well, what I'm hoping is that people understand that the way in which the folks in Washington are sort of taking themselves off the hook is to say, well, we'll make all of these decisions up to the states. And so it's really important who your governor is. It's really important that that governor reflect and represent the values that you have about being an American.
And as you know, the Hartford Courant on Sunday did not endorse the Democratic governor candidate, Ned Lamont, said he's not being honest or straight or showing any ability to deal with our tough problems. They did not endorse the Republican candidate, Bob Stefanowski. They said he's not being serious or straightforward or honest about how to deal with our problems. They endorsed the third-party candidate, Oz Griebel, and his running mate, Monty Frank, saying that fresh approach and his background make him the best able to tackle it.
Well, the other thing that I know, based upon my experience in Hartford, you have to have a connection to a party in order to govern. And Oz Griebel doesn't, and neither does Mr. Stefanowski. So I think the only one that can actually manage our government because of those coalitions is Ned Lamont. And I know that there are people that have some concerns, but he's run a company. He cares about labor. He understands that you have got to support our urban, our towns, our major towns in our state if we're going to grow as a state. And honestly, I just don't see or hear that from others. And I know that you have to work with the legislature in order to govern.
Natasha Smith said, best gala of the year. I look forward to it every year. I have a feeling she looked pretty dressed up at that event.
I bet you she was looking good.
Because even when she doesn't go to the event, I think she looks pretty presentable, unlike some of us. We missed Rosa this year, though.
Yeah, I think that she was ill.
That's yeah. There was some, but she was there Sunday night. She was back in action.
Good.
So here's what's striking me about this governor's race, Mayor Harp. Removing from whom we may or may not want to win.
Right.
The way people campaign on issues sometimes says something about the state of our politics and our government. So all three major candidates are against raising taxes on the wealthy as part of a solution. All three major candidates are against any kind of full-fledged electronic tolls. Here's what's surprising to me about that. The majority of people surveyed in Connecticut are for both, pretty solidly. And yet, these aren't dumb people. They have money. They have experts. They say in order to be viable, because we know that deep down Ned Lamont believes you need to do those things. So they're telling them in order to be viable, you can't be for any tax increases. You can't be for electronic tolls on our highways, even though a majority of Connecticut people want it. Why is that? Is that because the elections aren't about the pure majority of what people think of an issue? Because we've known this for healthcare forever. Single-payer healthcare has been popular since the Clinton days. Is it because the way elections work, there are certain interests that have more say or an ability of one group to demonize the other by taking a position out of context and not discussing it fully? Why do we have this disconnect in our state where what a majority of people want and need cannot be embraced by any major candidate who feels he needs to win?
I don't know, but I think it really is. It has more to do with how that issue is spun. And, for whatever reason, people know that you get what you pay for, but they don't want to pay for government.
Right, you've learned this firsthand. The one thing you can't do, you can kill people, you can't tax them.
Yeah.
But you have to run a government, and then they're mad when they don't get services.
And absolutely. And, like everybody forgets when they're voting that these things cost money. But in all honesty, and I don't know, it just seems like the spin of it, people are made to feel that whatever anyone who's willing to raise taxes will do will make it so burdensome that it will drive out business. and it will make things worse for everybody. And I think it's easier to have that, to make that, yeah, it's easier to say, and it's also easier for people to believe that somehow this is the problem that we have as a state, that we overtax when in fact maybe we don't have the right taxes. You know what I mean? And it's unfortunate. So yes, nobody's going to really say that. But then when all is said and done, you're going to have a, that's basically what happened during the Weicker first run. And then you're going to have an income tax.
And by the way, Bob does have a question. We'll get to in a minute, but I want to ask you one more Aaron Good type quiz question
Sure.
about the state of our politics in Connecticut. Again, I'm stepping back now, not to look at whom we want to win or lose, just what this campaign is telling us about where we stand and how we run our state, and how we can talk about it. What do these two words make you think of? Arthur Laffer.
I don't know.
See, I think there are only two of us left in the world.
Oh, the
Okay,
trickle down
so
theory.
Bob Stefanowski is running for governor, and part of his strategy, which by the way I think is not a dumb strategy, is to tell you as little as he can about himself. He has not talked to reporters. He's going to do it in this blitz the last 2 weeks, which I also think his strategy has been pretty brilliant. The Republican Party hates him for it because he's bypassed them. He's not letting you know anything about himself. So we're wondering, does he have these extreme positions? Sometimes they creep out, like about being against vaccination and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But he says one thing proudly about himself from day one of this campaign. He tells you two things. He was an executive at U.S. Bank and GE, and he actually puts this in every press release, every bio line. He has an economic plan endorsed by Arthur Laffer. Now, I'll tell you why that blows my mind. Again, when people run for office, they do what they think will help them. So he thinks it's going to help him to tell people he has an economic plan endorsed by Arthur Laffer. Arthur Laffer changed this course of this entire country under Ronald Reagan. He came up with a theory that if you just massively cut the taxes on the rich, that will magically produce so much more money for government that you could just say, we can just cut out all the taxes and we'll have more money to use. And that, obviously most people say, how could that be? And he says, because it creates so much new economic activity. Now, when the Reagan administration did tax cuts based on the Laffer curve, it's a curve. His name is spelled L-A-F-F-E-R. The entire country respelled it L-A-U-G-H-E-R. Even the budget director of Ronald Reagan said we didn't really believe it. They did an expose at the time saying, we did this, we knew this was just helping our biggest contributors get a tax break. We knew it wasn't going to give us more money to cut out all these taxes. So even back in 1982, the Arthur Laffer theory was completely discredited. Now, even you don't remember Arthur Laffer. The only person who this has blown away is, besides me, is Carl Goldfield, because he's former board alder. I ran into him this weekend, and he was saying, Arthur Laffer. I mean, this was like a huge thing for people who follow politics in the 80s. Our whole country was being run on this crazy theory. But yet this guy running for governor in a very sophisticated, I think, and strategic way, believes it's in his benefit that he can help get elected in the state by saying my plan to get rid of the income tax is endorsed by Arthur Laffer. Does this mean anything to you, or is he just crazy to think it would matter either way?
Well, if most people are like me and don't know who he is, I don't know that.
And
it
you're
makes
at like
a
the top
difference.
1% of 1% of high information voters.
And so and if they know that it's the trickle down theory, we already know that doesn't work.
So maybe he's right that no one will remember who this guy is or are discredited, but he sounds like some guy. Like you say, like, I've been endorsed by so-and-so. Ooh, that sounds like, I think he's right. Maybe that kind of sounds like some big guy endorses it.
And one of the things that we've been sort of looking at on our pension boards is, well, what has happened with the resources that the wealthiest of Americans have had? And
they have not gone back into investment. I mean, all this money shown has not gone back into investing in new jobs or plants.
That absolutely. And a lot of people, and it affected Connecticut, held on to their money, kept it out of the stream so they didn't have to pay taxes on it. And so, they just got wealthier and wealthier. And then when suddenly they felt like they had to, that's why we now have this surplus that we have in Connecticut. And so it absolutely doesn't work.
I thought we had the surplus because there was going to be a one-time change under the new Trump tax law, which is another one of these trickle down, that they were giving a big break to people who had been hiding their profits abroad. If they bring them back home, you pay this one-time charge, which is much, much lower than you otherwise going to pay, and then you weren't going to be paying much. And I thought all these states are getting a one-time bounce from that.
And I also think that might have been part of it, but it was also a time for you because taxes had gone down that you could now show that money as income in a way that it would be taxed.
Oh, that's really interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
And Bob did text in his questions.
Okay.
Can you ask her, that means you, about protection at 7 city synagogues? And then there's a second part that's to do with the Red Sox. I had read something from the police that they're stepping up patrols around synagogues. I mean, there aren't really 7 synagogues. That's what they say in New Haven. But there are a few places where like 4 people gather. I mean, it's really just a couple synagogues. And they said Jewish establishments, which I'm not sure what they meant, if they meant like the kosher market. We don't really have enough people patrolling like weekends and nights. Can you really do a lot of that? They just can drive by more? What does that really mean?
I think it normally means that you're going to drive by. You're going to make sure that there are more, those that do walk around that area. And we've done that before when we thought that there was a potential problem with a certain physical
And the
setting.
police did make really clear that there have not been any copycat threats, just so people know. They're not trying to get you more worried. They're just saying we're taking extra precaution.
No, absolutely.
But I think, Bob, and I'm sorry we can't be talking to you today. I'm sure we'll have this fixed for next week because, as we said, in our shop, we don't make any technological or other errors. I do think that all synagogues are going to be re-examining how they do security because of this. Remember I was saying earlier in the show, maybe life changes, maybe not. You're thinking now we have to change what we do, or is it just one isolated incident? Like Gateway Community College completely changed their security forever. Now you have to go through this rigmarole, get there, understandably, because this one woman made all these threats. It turned out they weren't credible threats, just some woman on Facebook, so you don't know. But I think the police department will be in the loop, and actually they work with the FBI too at all these synagogues about how to do security.
No, and I mean, we too. I remember when I went to visit a couple of other mayors in our state, and they have so much more security than we do. So we're going to be taking a look at it as well.
And I don't know where I stand on that. Like, I'm glad we're doing it. I'm glad so much that the government cares, but you don't always, like, sometimes you have to worry about not overreacting too. It's hard to tell.
Well, that's true.
And then Bob also asked, you're going to bring the Red Sox trophy to City Hall?
I don't know anything about that, Bob.
They won the World Series, I read.
Oh,
right? Isn't that true? Red Sox won the World Series?
Well,
Okay.
why would we bring it to City Hall? Oh, that's an interesting thought. Well,
Yeah,
Bob,
you and I are not the experts on this. But I do think we're the dividing line, right? Everyone close to New York from us roots for the Yankees and the Giants in football, and everyone north and east of us roots for the Red Sox and the Patriots.
That's probably true.
You and I are getting way past our expert zone here.
And I know that Marty Looney, Senator Looney,
sports person,
and we might be able to work with him to get it to City Hall, or at least get it into Connecticut somewhere, so that people can go and touch it.
So you don't like to just shoot down ideas?
No.
Okay. Are you going to be on this debate panel at the Connecticut Conference of Municipalities having a governor debate?
Well, it looks like I am. Yeah.
Does that mean you're asking the questions?
Well, they'll probably give me some to ask.
That's such an interesting new role. You don't usually see elected officials asking the candidates questions.
Well, it's really important. Yeah, that's right. CCM is.
They're a great group.
They are. And, honestly.
That's Tuesday night.
We're very dependent upon the state. So I'm very interested.
So there must be something you're dying to ask Bob Stefanowski, but you're not going to reveal it here.
No, but I mean, I do want to know, well, once you reduce all of these taxes, how is the payment in lieu of taxes that we are absolutely dependent upon going to be funded?
So there's pilot. So by the way,
yeah,
we've been for I don't know how many years now. The state's been spending millions of dollars trying to figure out how to fix our broken bus system that some of us think that an 18-year-old with a GPS machine could fix for $1,000. They came out with a big study, and they had the State Department of Transportation interviewed 5,000 riders, and they rode the system themselves for a month. And guess what? They found out that the system runs terribly, and it's like totally broken, and the routes don't make any sense, and the times don't make any sense.
Right.
Huh. Well, they come up with some ideas, Mayor Hart. They want new crosstown routes. Which I seem to remember, like in the very first discussions, this was all said. They want new transfer mini hubs. We talked about that last week. Here's one I never heard of. That there are lanes and priority lights that you can technologically have the traffic lights respond to buses and turn more often for them, which might make other people crazy. Fewer stops.
Right.
Like, say, it's reasonable to say they could be every quarter mile. And some express routes. So what do you think? Are these good ideas? Do we have any reason to believe that now that they have a study, it might happen? We have to wait for the new governor to see if there's going to be money for mass transit.
Well, I think that we definitely probably will have to wait for the new governor. We've been working on this study since I've been mayor for the past 5 years.
Remember, we don't even want to go to how many times they tried to put GPSs on the bus and all the reasons it didn't work.
I know. Remember when we went out to
that's so sad.
and we went out for the press conference and we were all excited about that. Was 3 years ago. It still hasn't happened. The thing about DOT is that it just takes forever for them to do anything. And, we're looking at.
But not for rich people. I mean, not for trains and not for like widening. We came in early on widening I-95 at the bridge there.
Well, did that?
They were early and under budget.
Wow. Well, that's a good thing.
But the buses, like, forget it. They couldn't even put a GPS machine on it.
Well, and, I don't think, long story short, it just takes forever for them to do anything. It really does when it comes to buses.
Yeah, well, Cow. So I hope I pronounced that okay. Davis, Jabbar, Bumnell, Anna Terashenko, Jesse Phillips, and Julianne Guest all checked in on Facebook to say hello. Thanks, everybody, for listening to Mayor Monday. So there was a big debate about a plan your administration came up with a plot of land that's been vacant for longer than most people listening to the show have been alive. Route 34 connector down by the boulevard. There's a median strip that's, I believe, 16 acres. You filled in part of it at the early part of your term at the eastern end. There's a whole development there, of course, from Career High School. So now you're ready to fill in something on the western end, right by the boulevard. There's 56 townhouses you want to build. It's going to be affordable housing. You've been under a lot of pressure to get affordable housing, completely affordable. And in return, you're offering them a 17-year tax abatement. Came under a lot of heat for that. The alders approved it preliminarily. There's one more vote to approve it. I think it's going through. The alder who has that ward, who's very influential, Tisha Workers for it. I don't think anyone's going against it. What do you think about the people who are saying that we really don't need to and really can't be giving tax abatements? Let the market work there.
Well, I think that we do have to give tax abatements if we want affordability. And so, and one of the things that that we are really trying to do is to ensure, yes, we can get market level housing here, and that's really wonderful. But we also know that we need more affordable units there. And so, if you're going to have more affordable units, you have to give something. So
years of waiting list in the housing authority.
Yeah, there is 6-7 years. I mean, some ridiculous
That's
number.
A long time. Yeah. So let me tell you, who Jonathan Hopkins is? He's a guy who's like, he grew up here and he loves architecture. Very positive on the city. And he always has these like detailed, thoughtful, different ideas he posts on our site. So he posted one to this story that was kind of interesting. And he supports a lot of what the city's doing. He's not like involved in politics that way. But he's really studied architecture his whole life. I got a master's degree and came back to New Haven to practice it. He said that he thinks the city should take a survey of the 11,000 existing owner-occupied residential properties to see if there are 56 people willing to rent to low-income tenants in exchange for a property tax abatement. So instead of giving this big tax abatement to this new building, take people who already have apartments and promise them a tax abatement for these 56 units to help people already here who are on the tax rolls, house people, and then you could use that land for market rate instead. He said, are there 189 New Haven residents willing to rent a one-bedroom for $1,000 a month and then pay the, and then do that even with the nice square? He said he agrees we need to do the affordable housing. He knows it needs to be subsidized. He thinks it can be done for less money without new construction with existing homeowners. But then how do you pick people who aren't doing it already? Why wouldn't they get the tax abatement? Is a slippery slope. I don't know.
No, I think that it's an interesting idea. It would take some time to see how to operationalize it. But so we're open for interesting, innovative ideas. But in the meantime, I think for that property, because there was a sense that there would be a community-based developer and that sort of thing, that it's appropriate for it to have the 17-year.
Another interesting idea from a reader. I wrote about last week the 9,000-pound, 600-foot tree, the spruce tree that got brought to the green. It was really fun to see them transport it and see how they do it and put it up there. And I know that we're not supposed to call it holiday tree. We're supposed to call it Christmas tree, not holiday day. But I was looking at all the other holidays. That Bodhi Day for the Buddhists this year is going to be January 13th. So I'm wondering if the tree is still going to be up. And I didn't know what Bodhi Day was, Bodhi, but it's like Bodhisattva. It commemorates the day that the historical Buddha Siddhartha Gautama experienced enlightenment. So maybe. Anyway, I love that tree. I think it's really beautiful.
It's a beautiful
one. It doesn't
bother
me that it's a Christmas tree because I think it's a Christmas tree. But anyway, that's not what the person wrote in. I know that legally we can't call it that, right? Gretchen Pritchard said, New Haven consistently has the most beautifully proportioned and decorated holiday tree I know of for any city its size. Kudos to all that responsible. Do you think it would be possible for the city to plant a Norway spruce on the green so that when it gets large enough, we can save on the annual expense of cutting and installing a tree this size and have it grow into a 60-foot tree of its own? And she was suggesting on the south side of the flagpole so it wouldn't interfere with the concerts. Any thoughts on that idea?
Well, it's an interesting thought. I hadn't really thought of it.
I don't know how many years it would take to
It
be
would
60.
probably be my great-grandchild.
I'm not sure.
Really, I don't know how long it takes to grow.
Yeah, I mean, once it starts growing, I know it take a while. I have this picture of Charlie Brown's Christmas tree. Do you remember?
Yes.
The really little one, and he put on the one ornament, and it kind of sagged, but it didn't quietly go over.
Yeah.
Anyway, I thought it was a pretty interesting idea. I don't know. It's good.
I know. I think so too. I know that at Gulf Street Park they planted a tree. And and it's been growing. I think it's been growing for the past 5 or 6 years. So I think that's a possibility.
And then the Mill River Trail got us groundbreaking. Kind of got lost in the bustle of all the crazy things happening last week. And a lot of volunteers went out there to try to reclaim how the Middle River goes. Now you can walk and bike on it. And there's going to be canoeing also on the river. And it's going to go right by District, that hot button big success story in New Haven right now at Fairhaven. What was the groundbreaking like?
It was really great. And I, as you point out, it was really, a lot of the work is being done by volunteers. And the fact that we're doing it at all was really an inspiration from volunteers. So I believe Mr. Logan was one of the ones that
from Make Haven.
Yeah, that led that and pulled together volunteers from across the city. And
people feel such an ownership in New Haven. There's such a change evolution I've seen. There's always been people who feel that way. But I've really noticed in the last decade and two, there are always people like that group that was out there, and they're not the only ones by any means, who feel that New Haven's this great place and they want to be involved in making it better.
And, I think that New Haven allows that to happen, and we make it easy for it to happen.
And it seems like this idea that government, we can argue about the taxes, but one role of government is to encourage people. Like I know how many times you said yes in this hour when someone had an idea, like let's think about that. To encourage people when they're taking the initiative, whether it's for these big bike rides for charity or bike lanes or safe streets or cleaning up trails, and government kind of helps them do it.
Right. And people then own the city. I think that's great.
Yeah, me too. And I think it's great that you were here on Mayor Monday. Thank you for being here on Mayor Monday. It's always a pleasure. And thanks everyone for listening, for sending the comments. Bob, I'm really sorry we didn't get to hear your voice because it's one of my highlights on Monday. But at least you got your questions in as usual. They're good ones. And you did stump us on the Red Sox. Okay. And thanks to Gateway Community College and Bertram Moses PC for providing financial support for today's program. We're going to take it out with the Afro-Semitic Experience. David Chevin runs it. Was at the vigil last night about Pittsburgh. The Afro-Semitic Experience had played in Pittsburgh in the Jewish community for the high holidays a month ago. He met the rabbi of the Tree of Life Synagogue where this happened. And the rabbi said to him, I want you to meet the most wonderful congregant. She's our oldest congregant. She's 97 years old. And he met this woman, and she was one of the ones shot dead this weekend.
So sad.
Sorry to end on that note. Because the point was we're all connected. That's one thing that was said last night. And we are.
We are.
We have our dark days and we have our bright days and a lot of days in between, but we have them together. We're going to take it out with the Afro-Semitic Experience performing I Wish I Knew How It Feel to Be Free from the group CD, A Plea for Peace. Now we know what it's like to be free. We just got to remember to book our flight. Book your flight with us all day and all night long here at WNHH New Haven's home for community radio.